and welcome back to another episode of Dance Talk Realness, a podcast where we discuss all nuances concerning education and dance because the dance experience is an experience worth talking about. I'm your host, Truly B, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Daryl P. How you doing, boo?
Good. Yeah.
There ain't no plan for the day. It's fine. It is what it is. Keeping that real. However, before we jump into all the foolishness, today's quote is, I don't know who it's from. Sorry. Not really sorry.
Excuse me.
Bless ya. Staying positive doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. It means that even on hard days, you know that there are better ones coming. Figured I could use that little bit of positivity because times are hard. The struggle is real. And yes.
All the way real.
I'm like, can it just be a smidge less real? I would greatly appreciate.
Yeah.
However, though, so Daryl, you're taking charge today because responsible adults. My soul is weary. Not today. It's fine.
Good. So I was thinking, today could be a fun, just kind of recapping or looking back at some of our episodes. And there could be some that I've been in and some that I've not been in, and just kind of reiterating or maybe diving a little deeper into some of those things that might have been touched on and then not really. We haven't dived deeper or dove deeper, or we could just bring those conversations back up because I think they're all conversations that are important. Like, for instance, I received an email today about how from work how we would try to bridge the learning gap from the spring semester into the fall semester. And I thought that was interesting because I guess I'm only really doing that with like a certain number of students, right? Like I have a large chunk of students who are having me for the first time. So there is really no gap, at least in my content area, there really is no gap in that. And then the ones that are returning, I feel like do they have some gaps in their training? Probably, yeah, for sure. They didn't get live, but I feel like we're gonna still have some gaps even after this first 2 quarters that we're going to be virtually. So I think it's interesting that we're going to take the time to fill that gap when I feel like it's one of those things that I worry that, when you had things like No Child Left Behind, and you start enacting these things that, of course, maybe they're meant to improve the learning or enhance the learning, but I think that sometimes the way they're done is never, they're just never executed well enough, that, in my opinion, to be really effective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. That is usually my concern with things like that I'm like, but is this actually gonna work though? Because this don't sound like this is the thing we should be doing. I don't know how much of this information you can share, but I am curious. Are they saying like a across the board type of we need to bridge this gap, or did they try to break it down into content?
I think it's going to be broken down into content across the board, from our fourth quarter to our first quarter, trying to bridge that gap. So I'm assuming, and I didn't really read the email all the way through, but
You
I,
sound
I
like me. Like I didn't read it.
what I'm thinking is that it will include taking some time in the beginning of the fall
Hmm.
to do that bridging. But that also takes up time from what I would normally do
Yeah.
in the fall anyway. You know what I mean? So once again, you're further pushing that gap. I mean, you're pushing that gap further out. You know what I mean? Which I feel like if there are gaps, I think that there are ways to fill that in, um, while still moving forward. I mean, I
Hmm.
feel like that is like the name of the game in this day and age in education, where you get students in the classroom who are all over the place, right? That who level wise or um, abilities are varying. So you have no choice but to teach from a place where you're bridging gaps with every lesson, multiple size gaps, gaps in different places, while still moving forward. So I kind of disagree with the use of time to focus solely on, and I don't know if this is really how they're doing it, I hope not, use of time to solely focus on this gap between fourth quarter and first quarter, which would then put us behind in our content
Hmm.
moving forward. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um it will be interesting to see how that all works out. Like I don't know.
Okay. So,
But I know
to,
it is by content because we are being given more context when
uh,
we meet with our content. You know how we always have that one content day when we
yeah.
meet content. So that's when we're supposed to get a little bit more information.
Okay. Yeah. So, and again, hoping this is not what they mean, but what it sounds like though is starting the school year with, all right, so these are things that you may have missed out on in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Let me cover these things, and then we'll move forward into what it is you should be in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
hope.
no, yeah, I need that not to happen because that's dumb. Like, and not saying that there weren't things missed. 100% there were.
Yeah.
Everybody. Like it was just wild everywhere.
Right.
But like you were saying, I feel like that kind of, at least maybe I'm assuming for us, for, for our content area,
Yeah.
going into the school year, by default, I'm already like, somebody gonna be in this room who there's something that did not compute, something you missed, you came late, you're just showing up, they dropped you in here.
Right.
I'm gonna have to go back, but
Mm-hmm.
also I'm still going to be following this plan that I'm supposed to follow for this year for this course.
Right.
So it's, well, I don't know
Right.
what that would look like in anyone else's class, but I mean, to me, that's just part of it. Like I would think.
Well, like yeah, like I couldn't. I feel like whenever I was in like like in middle school, when I was in like sixth grade math, like I just never
Mhm.
felt like we would, like at the beginning of seventh grade, why would we not review
Yeah.
what we did? Because I mean, no matter what, we had 2.5 months or more or
Yeah.
so off
And you know we
anyway.
weren't doing none
And
of the math problems.
I wasn't doing any of the work at
None.
all. So it's only natural that you would start the year off with a little bit of a recap anyway. So
Yeah.
that I get, and maybe this plan is for it to be a little bit more intentional than
Mhm.
what most people would do, because then that makes sense. Like I get that you want to have like an intentional recap of the things that you might have missed or you don't remember.
Yeah.
And I think as dancers and in dance classes, that's what we would do anyway.
Yeah.
And then especially for the ones who are dance one, there is no gap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't usually get any dancers that um, I don't usually get dancers that have taken dance in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have before, but even still, like I would start off the same way I start in a year off
Yeah.
anyway. And I did a little bit of planning for myself a couple nights ago. So my plan was to kind of do some recapping and review anyway. So, but I just wouldn't want it to be three, which I also thought I heard or saw that I wouldn't want it to be 3 weeks of that
Oh yeah. No.
because that's too much.
Like I'll give you a week.
I give you a week. I give you a week of maybe so two to four classes of actually review, recapping,
Mhm.
reassessing some things, and then after that we moving on.
Yeah.
And even still, we moving on in each of those classes. Like it'll be like I wouldn't. It would be smart to take a chunk of what you did in whatever genre. Like say if your focus is going to be ballet to start with, recap ballet, but in that same week, let's move a little bit further and learn a little bit more to kind of just keep progressing, not
Yeah.
just like a week of totally like we're gonna drill this, drill this, drill this, drill this, drill this. Okay, we're gonna take some type of assessment over it. All right, now I know that you're caught up.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I worry about like you know some of the students who just struggle with like dance anyway or language and all that other stuff like what that means for them. So you
True.
know so yeah, so that's like school restarting. um
When is the first day of school? I should know these things.
the
I
31st,
don't.
August 31st is our
Ugh.
first day back.
Okay.
um and that then I was also thinking about like my concerts, and I also worry, I still don't really know, because like I said, this is my fourth year at my school, and so I'm always like, what for my 4 year seniors who've been dancing and they are super talented. I still don't know what to think of, like, are colleges going, I mean, well, you're going back face to face, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers, cause
Right. I know some other kids who are going back face to face into
mm-hmm.
their dance classes. So I just worry, like, how do you prepare dance students for this new digital world? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like how will how can I because I mean I think things, obviously we all know things are going to be totally different now.
Yeah.
So like what you know should in my dance 4, should we be working on, we probably should be working on dance reels. Let's learn a bunch of choreography and let's work on some dance reel. Let's work on how to market yourself
Yeah.
virtually, because you may not be able to audition in person,
Mm-hmm.
if the plan is to do that, or if you do, um, just how to prepare for that, basically.
Which, you know, not mad at that per se. Um, Man, it just sucks. Like, I'm sure it sucks for a lot of other people, but I
Mm-hmm.
really dislike not being in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even though we're going back on my campus face to face, first of all, that's still wild to me that it's happening. And I'm just like, oh, for real, we showing up? Okay. You say so. Y'all trusting these folks to wear masks, huh?
Yeah.
I don't trust it. So we're gonna see how long this actually goes for. But I'm actually in both of my classes, and I do need to email this information out sometime in the near future. They'll be divided into groups. And so I'm only going out there twice a week. But like, let's say the modern class, because that one's a more regular class schedule. So group 1 will only be there on Tuesdays. Group 2 will only be there on Thursdays. And on their opposite days, they'll be watching virtually. And I'm like, okay, for me, I'm like, okay, so what does that do to attendance? Because, you know, like for us, well, I mean, for everybody, attendance is important. But I'm like, yeah, you might need to actually be here. Like, yes, I can record it, but if I can't actually look at you and give you a specific correction for you, then to me, that's putting that student at a disadvantage almost. Because, you know, like, yeah, we know that, okay, if a teacher gives you a correction, then I'm like, oh, let me keep that in mind so I don't make that same mistake. But like both of my classes are like entry-level dance classes, modern one, movement one. So I'm like, it's highly unlikely I have any dancers. I know one student has told me that she danced when she was little. I really hate that sentence, but you know, bless them for trying.
Right.
There you go. Right. And then another one, I actually taught her in the spring. And I was like, yay, thanks for taking another one of my classes. It's good to have you back. And what I remember of her, she used to do figure skating. Okay. And so that's also a different type of mentality to deal with. I don't know. I've taught like a class full of figure skaters, and I was like, y'all really be out here thinking y'all know everything. Stop. And I thought maybe it was just them, but then I met this one. I was like, oh, is this a thing? Yeah. So now I'm actually legit curious if it's something like ingrained in them in that sport activity. Yeah. Sport. This is sport, right?
It's sport. Yeah, call it a sport. Yeah.
So it's, I don't care for doing this online thing because I already know I'm not going to pay attention to that computer screen enough. I will try to, but I know when I have bodies in front of me, I don't look. So hopefully they were able to get me a TA, and the TA can be like, hey, these people go. And I can like try to balance that better.
So you're going to have, so they have the option of being in person or virtual.
Yeah. Okay. So far, because I emailed them, and so far everyone says that they're down for the hybrid situation. And I think I only had one who wasn't quite sure, but said that he would try, but he said he might also drop the class. I'm just like, all right, babe, do what you do. Yeah. It's enough people in this class. Like my numbers are fine. Like I'm not worried about, not to say it like that, not that I want people dropping my class, but I'm not like, if the cap is like, if the limit to keep the class is like 5, it's not like I got 5 people in there and I'm like, oh my God, please don't go. Right. I'm like, I have enough numbers that I'm like, okay, well, if he drops, I'll be all right. I'm like, do whatever you need to do because I need this to be not stressful for anyone involved in this class. Yeah. So like my writing assignments, I'm cutting that way down because number 1, I don't want to look at it. Number 2, they're not going to want to do it. And I'm like, let's just not worry about it. So for like the one class, the larger class, they're in 3 groups. So it's like, all right, each content is going to be 2 weeks. So it's 4 classes. So I'm like, all right, class 1, group 1 is in person. Class 2, group 2 is in person. 3, group 3 is in person. And then on the 4th one is when they get assessed. And so I'll see all 3, but they'll have a 30-minute window. And I'm like, all right, well, group 1, you come at 8, you got till 8 to 8:30. 5-minute switch over. Then group 2, 8:35 to 9:05. Move you on out the way. Group 3, 9:10 to 9:40. And then I'll have like a break before the next class. which I don't like it. But then I was like, I just could not do this whole thing online. I don't have a space, number one. And it feels weird to me to be talking and teaching to like open space. So I was like, nah, forget that. Somebody gonna be up in here with me. So y'all gonna have to dance with these masks on. So I don't know how we're gonna make that work. Because at least for modern, I'm like, well, I already know two of the combinations because I just be teaching those combinations off the rip. I'm like, I'm not choreographing nothing new for a modern one class. You're going to learn this dance. Mm-hmm. And then as you move up, I'm like, okay, I will choreograph for the higher levels. Mm-hmm. But those two dances, first of all, they're hard. Those should not be level one dances, but they are now. You're college, you'll work it out. You're smart. So I'm like, I've never done them with a mask on. I don't know how this is about to go. But I'm also not changing my plan at this point because now I'm just like, all right, let me figure out the warm up then. Y'all just gonna have to, like, if you need to get water, do what you got to do. Those of y'all on video, have the water next to you. Do what you need to, but we're about to power through this because I can't do this not being in the space. Like I need that personally. Yeah. But it's gonna be weird. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact these kids are not gonna have these masks on like in the dorms or like when they eat or any of the like just walking
general spaces. Yeah,
they're not going to. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, and I have some friends that are kind of all over, and they're, you know, some are studio owners, some of them are working in studios. And I've seen them recording their kids who were all wearing masks in these spaces. So somehow they're making it work. Like, I don't know if they are, you know, maybe it's just all about chunking, right? So like, you know, I'm going to teach for 30 minutes and we're going to have, or 15 minutes, and we're going to have a break where you grab water, you get to kind of take your mask away from your face for a little bit. Breathe, and then we'll teach for another kind of like these workouts I'm doing with Insanity, right? So it's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then like a 10 second break. Well, obviously they would be a little bit more than 10 seconds breaks, but just a chance to just being more mindful of the breaks and like maybe the washing of the hands, and you know, even choreography might be a little bit different too now that, you know, some places are like, you know, they can't go to the floor, and
I'm going to the floor.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
Wash y'all hands.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I think it just leads itself to a lot of creativity, right? And like, and also just planning more. Like, I don't know what some of the, like, if I had a dance studio, like it's just all about planning, and it's also about providing the sense of security, even though you have no idea. You have no idea how secure this is going to be. You can say what you're doing and how you're trying to prevent it, but there's no guarantees as to the effectiveness of the plans that we're all putting in place, right? Like, and I think just some people are just kind of taking a chance and saying, you know, we don't know the effectiveness of these plans, but we're just gonna move forward anyway, just because, you know, why not do that? And I get it. Like, there's some states like in Florida where they're going back with no protective gear at all, and you know, there's some risks that I think are too risky, and are a little foolish. But you know, I applaud those parents that are like, yeah, go back, Billy, Sarah, go back, and we're going back to work. You know what I mean?
He was like,
really, like, leave, go back, go to school. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. Like, I just don't know who those parents are, but hey, you know.
Let me be very real, because I would love for them not to be up in here, but I don't know that I would have sent them back. Like, PG was talking about, we gonna be up in here. I'm like, I don't know about these three though.
Yeah.
They need the option.
Yeah.
But like we talked about before though, like I'm not the that condensed plan that they sent out that's tentative for the spring. I was like, okay, if that was the plan, I could have maybe been like, give it a couple months, we'll see how this goes. And if it's all right, then I'll go ahead and let my kids come.
Yeah.
But I just my biggest thing is if I could trust that everyone was doing everything they possibly could to reduce their exposure and reduce spreading anything,
Mm-hmm.
I would be more apt to be like, okay, you know what? Yes. But I know folks been out in these streets. Like,
Right.
okay, like I legit, and I've said this before, I have neighbors, like not like the house next to me, but like in the neighborhood, have been
Mm-hmm.
having full blast parties. Like, I know all these people don't live in your house. Y'all out
Right.
in the yard. It's like y'all not even in the house with it. Like y'all is like, we don't care. Rona's over. And it's like, no, it's not. It's still
Yeah.
out here, y'all. And I mean full going parties, all the people, like they had like like some of these businesses have like the traveling party. So it'd be like a trailer,
Mm-hmm.
like of a truck, and it's like set up to do something. They had that out there. And I'm
Wow.
just like, y'all it's really
Who are
partying.
like neighborhood people going to this?
I guess, child, I don't even know who all was going, but I went past it and I was like, y'all oh, all right. So I'm like, I know for a fact. And then there was like a lot of kids. So I'm like, definitely school age. So I'm like, I know y'all ain't been out here doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Not enough of you, clearly.
Right.
So I'm like, no, I don't want my kids to go be around y'all because I know my kids have had minimal situations they've been in where they could have been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know about these other people's kids. I don't know. Some folks been out here having full blown parties. And I'm
Right.
like, no, I don't like it. I don't trust it. So I think that's my issue with it because
Yeah.
I am 1000% ready for them to be about the house for
Yeah.
their 7.5 hours a day or whatever. Like I'm prepared for that. Like y'all got get out of my house. I'm tired.
Yeah.
But everybody doesn't follow the rules.
Right.
And so I'm like, dog it. I really wish everyone did though, because then I would feel better about it. Like, there was a picture I saw that they said was like from some high school in Georgia.
Mm.
Hallway full of kids. I think they said, yeah, I think they said it was a high school full of bodies. Like not like how the hallways be.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it looked like how the hallways be when there's a fight. That's how it looked. That's how many bodies were out there. It was all the bodies compact. And you can spot, I would say, 10 or less kids with masks on. Everybody else just chilling. And I was
Yeah.
like, guys, what? And I'm like, folks are out here like, okay, well, high school will be easier because they're older. And I'm like, they still kids though. And
Right.
they still miss their friends. And they
Right.
still want things to go back to normal. So no, they're not. Like they're gonna be out here trying to live their best life
Right.
and passing all the cooties. And I'm like, I don't want this for my life.
Right. No, I think that yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine. Like it just brings me back to when this all started and
Mm.
how, there were reports, we were having a couple of schools who like people at that school were in contact with them. And so two schools closed.
Yeah.
Um, but then my school was still open. And then we realized that some of my students, not my personal students, but like students in the building, had been on a trip with kids from those other schools. So I'm just thinking, well, how are we all not closed? Because it just didn't make any sense that like,
Mm-hmm.
you're just doing this like spider web of like, okay, so now you had it and then you were with who? And so
Yeah.
it's like you have to, it was like trying to contact trace right before it was a thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just can't see, like you said, I just couldn't see taking my kids into that. But it goes back to just, the people who just don't have any other, like, they have no other way
Yeah.
of getting by if their kids are left at home. You know what I mean? So it's like, they have to go. Like, I can't, and I wonder what will be the case for some of the people in the community, like what they will do with their young child if they are having to work. Now, it seems like most people that I've talked to who had an actual building to go to, like an
Mm-hmm.
office building, um, they are like, well, we're not going back until the beginning of the year. And some people are like, well, we're probably never going back. Um, so I'm sure if we have students whose parents have, those type of jobs, more than likely they're still working. They're working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Then it just becomes the issue of making that home life work with mom and or dad or both working, and one or more children um, being on the computer, having to monitor them, etc. Um, but I think if you're an essential worker, which run the list of everybody who's an essential worker,
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, you know, who's going to watch their kid?
Yeah.
Um, who, and so then that probably becomes like, if there's multiple children in the house, the oldest one probably will be the one that needs to be the parent in the situation. But I'm sure that oldest one has its own, like, and we were talking about this last week too, about
Yeah.
how, you know, there's going to be days that your little ones will be kind of like the oldest going to have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
monitor like what the others are doing, while they will have to do their work too. So um I get it. um but it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I still would, I feel like I would try to make that work in some way. um maybe this is when you rely on your neighbor, if you all are in the same building, and maybe there's a parent or an adult that's next door that, yeah, I am working from home, I can keep an eye on, because I feel like, I grew up in a single parent household, and there were several people, growing up living in an apartment complex, there were several people who um just really watched out and kind of monitored it a little bit of my sister and I. We were pretty, I would say, pretty self-sufficient, but
Mm-hmm.
we were latchkey kids, and we um, most days were home by ourselves and wouldn't have another adult home with us until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Um, and so my mom really relied on just our upstairs, and the neighbor to the left of us, to just kind of say, hey, just be mindful, keep an eye out, nothing
Yeah.
nothing too major, but just if you see something, let me know or call me. um so it's really that whole, it takes a village, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
really is going to take a village to help some of these communities out, because they're going to need it for the next several months, for sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. And like that actually, because like now I wonder, because similar, um, like we had neighbors who, if we were any type of somewhere we weren't supposed to be, or if something looked, concerning,
Hmm.
like they were there.
Hmm.
Would call our parents, would be like, ask us, like, okay, everything good? You all right?
Right.
And I can honestly say we talked to the neighbors like across the street. That's about it.
Hmm.
Man, these people, okay, there's a family next door. They don't be speaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, I ain't saying hi to y'all no more either. Hope you don't need nothing. Get on my nerves. I'm trying to be a good neighbor.
Right.
Y'all can't even give like the black man head nod. You can't give me like a wave. nothing, like a church finger, nothing. All right, cool, whatever. And then the other side, that one, like a woman bought the house. I don't know that she lives there. I think she just rents it out. So it's always
Yeah.
like changing who's on that other side. And so I'm just like, I don't know these people. Stranger danger. And like
Yeah.
the couple that we do speak to, it's an older Black couple. So, they're about that business of like, hey, you need anything, just let us know. If they see anything sketchy, they'll call, they'll check,
Yeah.
which I appreciate because that's how I grew up. That's what I'm in my head. I thought that's what things were going to be like everywhere. And it's like, everybody wasn't raised like
Yeah.
that. So I come to the question of, okay, so if you don't have that village, like, not that I'm saying it's your job's responsibility. That's not what I'm saying. However,
Yeah.
like, folks gotta know, like, you gotta know you have employees who have kids.
Right.
Like, is there something you can do? And I know, like, bringing your kid with you is not a legit option, for a plethora of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of places. But is there no way to like work with people on this without them feeling like they'll be penalized? And I feel like there has to be,
Right.
but I just wonder if people are like looking out for those options. Like, hopefully there will be a lot that do have people that can help them. Like, I know I was very privileged in the fact that I had like a lot of relatives that lived near us,
Mm-hmm.
that if both of our parents could not be there, like when we were younger, like we were staying like with a grandparent, with a great grandparent, like we had aunts and uncles in the area, like there was always somebody that could get to us if we had to.
Yeah.
But like with our kids, I'm like, y'all got a few people close by, but that's it, child. And they can't just come get you the way people were able to just come get us. And so I'm
Right.
just like, like there's so many variables that, like, I appreciate thought is being put into some of them, but it's
Mm-hmm.
always just like, oh my God, but what about this? What you
Yeah.
gonna do about this?
Yeah.
It's just all crazy. It's all
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah. And I wonder how this will affect like some of the bigger, just because I know just my experiences in Texas and stuff that, the dance company. Well, I mean, I guess this summer has been interesting. Like I've seen a lot of people still try to engage in some of the dance camps for their high school teams. So these companies have done a lot of virtual things. I don't know how lucrative these were for them because some of it seemed
Mm-hmm.
like they were offered at a very low cost.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these camps, though, I mean, I think it's one of those things where once this is over, I think we will reevaluate the things that we found necessary and, um, could be really detrimental to some people's business. Because I feel like a lot of these places would charge you, like, I think we paid, well, I guess the camp itself was not that expensive. Like, usually my students were paying like maybe 250 for like a 4 to 5 day camp, maybe
Mm-hmm.
300. But you're getting all these routines and you're getting this experience, and it's pretty good. But then you add in the fact that they're staying at a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're in a hotel for 5 days. Um, Most of the time, they offer some type of meal plan for them,
Yeah.
and it was sometimes through the hotel, and that's super expensive. And so now, you hope that these types of events will happen because these hotels will need to hopefully continue to flourish. But I don't know. If I was still in Texas and still teaching dance, I think I would probably be like, you know what, if we can get through this year with like some online virtual
Mm-hmm.
camps, that might just be our route to go because it's going to end up being cheaper for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and we're still going to try to mimic the same experience. Now, it is nice, and I even wonder that even now, because this was a regional year, and that just got canceled. I think about a month ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, we got an email saying that it was canceled for next year, which they only do them every other year. So the next regional isn't until 2023. Is that right? Yeah, 2023.
Yes.
So, which kind of sucks, because it's like I would have loved to have taken some of my seniors to do that, but now they don't really get that experience. And but it also makes me think, what other experiences could I offer them that would be pretty similar for like somewhere around the same cost, maybe even cheaper. So then it kind of makes me think, well, why would I even go back to regionals? Because I've kind of done the work to plan out this really, I would want it to be really comparable to that. So if I can do that on my own, why would we spend twice or three times the amount, just to go to Virginia every other year? You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of those things that maybe we would do just because it is a fun experience for them. But instead of like regionals is only every other year, this is something that I could do every year, and have the same benefit from it. So I don't know. I wonder if I would hope that some of these businesses and companies and organizations are thinking about like how do we change what we do, because what we did in the past just may not work anymore.
True.
Yeah.
I will say though, I have in the past and kind of currently had those thoughts of, I could plan something out. I could make something happen. And then it's like, okay, if I do all that, then do I have any motivation to go to anybody else's anything? And I'm like, it depends on what it is. Like, I am, and I was talking to Marcina about this before, that I was like, I have had the thought that, similar to what another district does in the state, of arranging a what's the word? Call it PD. Call it PD. Sounds close enough. Specifically tailored to people I know. That I'm like, okay, do I know a lot of dance educators personally who want a traditional, throw this out there, I don't know, traditional like ballet class? No. Do I know a lot of dance educators who will be interested though in a contemporary ballet class? Yeah. And I'm like, I know people who teach that well, who, they have that solid foundation, but they're able to open it up more where it's not so stuffy. And I'm just like, I could finagle this. I'm like, I know people who do this thing. And then like I was about to say something shady as hell. So let me not say that. Let me back the sentence, pull it back in, because the Boo Child almost came out. But okay, let me see if I can talk around this.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So, so
yeah, we're on.
Yes, in order to offer you things that I would ask, take a poll, and then actually abide by the information that you give me back. That, like, let's say if this year I offered you a dancing social media course. And y'all are like, yes. However, we don't want the same class again next year. And you be trying to do that. I wouldn't be that person who keeps doing that.
Yeah.
Just saying. There's going to be an episode that I'm just going to be shady as fuck, but it's not going to be today because I trying to be a good person. So not yet. We'll know when that one's coming. I'll advertise.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Folks just be, and it'd be like, oh, we're just going to keep giving this. And I'm like, but we off that. Give me something else. Like you asked, we said, offer those things.
Right.
Just an idea. And so I have tossed that idea around. I would need to like seriously sit down and plan. But I would be here for it because real talk, that other district that legit does their own every year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we can have nice things, guys. We could do this. Yeah. And I wanted to do it before I left, but then also I was like, I'd be doing too much at the same time. So did not really pursue that. But if I were going to do it, I am 95% sure I would specifically be dealing with PGCPS because I'm like, well, first of all, I know y'all. Second of all, if I was going to say it would benefit my kids personally, but no, it wouldn't because my kids aren't dance majors. And the oldest doesn't even take dance. So it wouldn't benefit my kids, none. It's just that I'm like, okay, I live in this community. Why not serve it?
Right.
And I miss y'all, so it will be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun. It was so fun. Yeah, and I think that's also what I feel like this whole thing has done for me creatively, is to be creative for myself. You know what I mean? And find ways to kind of put myself out there a little bit more than what I would have done. Because I just feel like I have more time, right? Like I feel like I would have been doing the man's work all day, every day, and like really having zero time for like things that I might have wanted to do or some side projects, or just being so exhausted at the end of the day that I just like all these ideas and plans just seem like, oh, I can't do another thing, or I'm already behind on doing this thing at work. So, why would I even consider doing this other thing? And so I just have found that like with this, I just have much more room to like do other things. And it's like, I really want to come out on the other side of this whole pandemic, just having more things under my belt creatively than I would moving forward. Like, not that I think that any of these projects that I'm doing, do I want them in any time soon want them to like take over what I'm currently doing now, because I love teaching at my school, and I love my students, and so like none of this is like oh, this is my way out, but it has just kind of woken me up to like ways in which some of these projects could help benefit some of my own students in my own program. And I think that's really what I want to be able to do, is like, it's just continue to be able to further provide opportunities for my students that I know are kind of like, they're like the untraditional dancer, right? Like they're not dancing from the womb. They're not super trained in like any one technique or style, nor do they probably even know what style they're doing, but they just have a passion to move. And I think that there's a career in that. There is an opportunity in that for them. And so like, for instance, I was able to work on this project with a friend of mine doing a music video that's coming out August 21st. Little plug during that. And I was able to do the choreography for it. And I got to hire one is a former student of mine. The other one is a former student at from another PG school, and another student
Nice.
is a current PG student. Um, so yeah, it was just nice to be able to give them this paid professional
Mm-hmm.
dance opportunity that didn't come from, being at Towson. Um, it didn't come from, being at Goucher. It didn't come from because they went to Suitland and had a connection with somebody at Ailey. You know what I mean? This was like a
Yeah.
legit project, a legit professional gig, but you know what I mean, just because they were dance students. And I think that, with some of the project that I'm kind of working on, like I want to be able to provide more opportunities like that, but for different for different events, different avenues. So we'll see.
I like.
We'll see.
I like. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think because like in you were in one of them, like a couple of my pieces that I'm like, those I had current students in them. And I'm like, I pay my dancers. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
don't be doing a whole lot sometimes because I'm like, well, y'all ain't got that money. Like the vision is huge and the bank account is small. However, like I hate to not pay my dancers. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I will figure it
So,
out.
right.
And like from with intersections, it was like, okay, as soon as I get the money from that, that's usually replenishing my bank account because the first thing I'm gonna do is you'll get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just gonna figure out how I'm gonna eat after that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you as my dancer will get paid and my kids will eat.
Right.
That's the only guarantees I have. After that, I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. We'll pray for the best.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just such a huge thing to be able to give them a paid opportunity, not
Mm-hmm.
a, hey, I'm your teacher, come do this.
Right.
Or, hey, I see you have like this potential and this talent. Here, come do this free thing. It's good publicity. Hopefully, you'll run across somebody who can do something for you. And I'm like, nah,
Right.
anytime you're performing, I'm gonna need you to get paid for that. I think only once I didn't. And that was because it was a class,
Mm-hmm.
but they had to sign paperwork. But that was it. But I'm like, anything, and that wasn't even put out there. That was just an assignment I had to turn in. So I'm like, yeah, I ain't paying out for that. I could have bought
Yeah.
them nuggets or something, but whatever.
Right.
It happened already.
Yeah.
But to be able to provide those opportunities, that is something that I hope I'm able to grow a platform large enough to support. That
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not always me setting the work and being able to hire the dancers,
Mm-hmm.
that I would be able to, when you have something come up, that I put it out there, help you
Mm-hmm.
find dancers, help, grow the audience that's coming to make sure that there are funds coming in. Like, and specifically, I want to do that for like our area
Yeah.
because not that it's not happening. I just think it could happen more. You can never have too many great opportunities.
Right.
Like, give people options. Because I will say, from my recollection, a lot of the opportunities that were put out there were primarily pushed towards those who were coming from a Suitland, or we branch out even further to like Ellington or BSA, of which I'm not saying don't give them things, like, because yeah, give them things, they be working.
Yeah.
But what about that baby that I'm teaching who has not been training for forever and a day,
Mm-hmm.
but they want it, they're hungry for it, they'll
Yeah.
fight for it.
Right.
There's something out there for them too. And man, I need to get this girl on here. Like, I just saw one of my babies posted on Facebook, and I was like, I remember when you were trying to get out my class because you were like, this is too much. I'm not here for this. My family ain't really about me doing this dance thing. And I was like, nah, I ain't signing nothing. I mean, go ahead, try to drop if you want to, but I'm gonna need you to do this. And now it's like a whole career. And I'm like, I don't want no money from you. I don't need a shout out for all the things you get, but it just amazes me. I was like, if she would not have been given the opportunity, and if people would not have been like, no, but her though. And it would have, if she would have only had the experience of dance of you have to have trained from birth, basically.
Right.
She would probably be in a completely different life.
Right.
So I'm like, anytime I'm like, yes, opportunities, please. Like, there's a lot of kids that we teach that's like, you could do something with this. Like, you ain't got to want to do this for like your whole life.
Right.
But why not do stuff that you can do? Like, why not?
Right. And I know that, I hope that other students will see some of the things that, the student got to do and just kind of realize like
this is possible.
This is possible. This is really possible for someone not even, train. And like, even for myself, I think about like even my own training and my own like dance background. And I never thought someone would ask me to choreograph a music video. I'm just like,
like,
yeah, of course.
Famous people, yes. You're on that list. You're famous now. If like, you didn't think you were, putting it in the atmosphere for you, you're famous.
Like, I just would have never thought that, and it's cool, and it was such an experience, and like being nervous because when you've danced in so many things previously and you're like, oh, now I'm the one who's doing it, it's like, okay, I want to make sure that this is like really awesome and really sharp and really good, so you're nervous, but it's one of those things that it's nice to feel like I'm always learning and I'm always growing, even at almost 37, and like being in like the teaching game for like almost 15 years, like it is really it just feels really good. But yeah, no, I hope that a lot of dance teachers really, it's one thing to like, teach students to dance, but it's another thing to then, really want to give them opportunities outside of like, a competition. Like, I feel like a competition isn't an opportunity for students. Like, if anything, the competition awards kind of stay with the school, but doesn't really, it's more something that follows the student in their memory. But like, if you want to give them a real opportunity, get them into something that's going to get them paid, get them into something that they're going to be able to use after those competitions and those videos are over, because like that's going to be what really, even if they don't become dancers, that's at least something that I think in their adult life they can kind of say, not only did I dance as a child, but I also did some pretty cool projects after that whole experience.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I agree.
And nothing against competitions either. I think competitions are good for what their purposes are, but I think I just don't know if I would say that they're opportunities.
Yeah. I think I don't think that I've ever thought of them as opportunities. Well, maybe, but if I did, I think of them as opportunities in the sense of it's an opportunity to work on stage presence, maybe. Just another chance to perform, but
Correct.
as an opportunity, as something that I'm like, oh, this could be a potential career path, a potential stream of income. No.
Yeah. Definitely. I would say that, yes. I think that that's exactly what competitions are good for. And they serve a purpose. They definitely serve a purpose in our culture and in our community. But I think, yeah, I just had a good friend that, you know, our dancers, through some of the things she was working on and doing, just got so many cool, like they got an opportunity to work with Todrick Hall in a video, and they've just done so many cool things. And it's like, you know, yeah, they might not have gotten paid for, but they got that experience. And I think that, like, that those are experiences that, you know, yes, it's about performance, it's about working on presence and whatnot, but those are also just memories, you know what I mean? Like really, really, and like profound or solid memories that they would be able to take with them. Yeah. Oh wow. Anyhow.
It is a thing.
It is.
All right, I'm hungry, so. I'm raggedy today. I apologize for that. I tell you. Whew. Well, on that note, though. Thank you all for joining us here again at Dance Talk Realness. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, add us. No, but for real. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe across all the places where you can find us: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. One of these days, I'm going to add some stuff to that list. It ain't going to be today. It may not be 2020, to be honest. But one of these days, we'll be fancy. We'll upgrade. I don't know. I'm gonna put that on you, Daryl. I don't know. You're the responsible adult in this pair now. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do. You're responsible. But yeah, if you have any questions for us or any prior episodes, questions for our guests, feel free to drop questions, comments under any of our videos, or shoot an email, dancetalkrealness@gmail.com. But again, I say, I be putting that out there. I'm gonna stop doing that. Don't let me do that no more, because I'm like, don't be emailing me for real. Sorry, that's really kind of for like the guests. But yeah, leave a comment, questions. We will love to read them and answer them. So we look forward to bringing some fresh new content next week. See you then. Bye.